Israel has dominated the Palestinian people since at least 1967, and we could probably go back before that. Let me just say this. If we look at things in not a collectivist way, and we recognize that there are individuals, and these individuals make up different groups. Let's say we have the group that is Hamas, made up of individuals, but that's Hamas. Within that group, we have the militant Hamas, and we have the political arm of Hamas. They are different. We also have Israel, which is made up of its citizens. We have different political parties within Israel. Okay, let's take this one group for a second, the innocent Palestinians. I hope both of you would concede that such a group does exist. There are some people on the pro-Israel side who will explicitly tell you that that group does not exist. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, there is no group that has been more victimized than the innocent Palestinians. And at a certain point, maybe we ought to think about that group. Nobody has been through it worse than that group, the innocent Palestinians. And at a certain point, I think the question needs to be asked, does Israel have a right to do what it's been doing to the innocent Palestinians for many, many decades now?
Thank you guys very much. You all stayed within the time limit, which is actually incredible. And Bache, you did steal a little bit of my thunder because, and I'm big glad that you answered that question. Dave and Cenk both responded in that way about how exactly what the question and the superimposed upon that is that do we agree that Israel at least either had a right or was justified in taking some action as a result of October 7th. So my question, I think, to both of you, and both of you can feel free to chime in after both of them has responded, is if we look at the original statements for the war and for the invasion, is that the Israeli military was supposed to accomplish a few objectives. Number one, they had to destroy Hamas, the militant terrorist organization. Two, they had to lead to the release of the hostages. And three, they had to make sure that an October 7th could never happen again. So in the conduct of the war so far, do you believe that they have been successful with those objectives? Dennis, why don't you go ahead and go first?
None of us knows yet. Israel is being prevented by much of the world, and I feel that on this entire issue, I'm living in a make-believe world. Every analogy could have been applied to Nazi Germany. There were innocent Germans who were killed by the Allies in the bombing and in invasions and so on. No one denies that. But to point out that there were innocent Germans while the Nazis were in charge is a morally idiotic point. It means nothing. It only means that every innocent German's life that was taken is the responsibility of the Nazis. Every innocent Palestinian life that has been taken is the responsibility of Hamas or Hezbollah. That's it. The analogy is perfect. There is one difference between Hamas and the Nazis. And I never called any group in my 40 years of radio Nazi. I never called an individual that other than the Nazis of the 1940s. But there is only one difference between Hamas and the real Nazis of Germany. The Germans hid their atrocities. Hamas boasts and videos them.
Bache, go ahead.
I think that they have, I would say, destroying Hamas, definitely. They're not going to get every single one, but the idea that Yahya Sinwar will ever breathe open air again seems to me very far-fetched. I think they have driven him underground forever. And, you know, they've cut off the head. And the idea that Hamas will be able to regroup at this point seems to me very unlikely. The release of the hostages, no, they failed on that front. I think they tried. Maybe they could have tried harder. I think, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I think a lot of them are dead. So let's say about that, but I think on that they've obviously failed. And as to another October 7th, I think a lot of that has to do with what we're seeing now in terms of the realignment happening in the Middle East, to where you see Saudi Arabia clinging to the idea that they too will be able to join the Abraham Accords at some point. The moderate Sunni and Gulf states rush to Israel's defense, amazingly, to protect them from these Iranian rockets. And to me, that is, you know, I mean, I don't think this is a moral question so much as a strategic one. And I'm sure we're going to get into where does the United States fit into all this? Where do we want the United States to fit into all this? But from that point of view, and Iran-backed October 7th, should it happen again, is going to happen in a very different Middle East, one in which Israel has a lot of support from the Arab nations, and that makes it less likely as well, I believe.
Yeah,
Can I just, I'm just kind of, I'm blown away by the statement that Mr. Prager just made, that the only difference he can see between the Nazis and Hamas is that the Nazis hid their atrocities. So if that's the only difference you can see, I have a few others that pop to mind. The Nazis were a government. The Nazis had an army. The Nazis had an air force. The Nazis had submarines. The Nazis controlled from France to Poland in all of Europe, whereas Hamas can't even control Gaza effectively. I mean, I find the statement that you can't see any differences between the Nazis killed
Do you see a
over.
moral difference?
Well, okay, but hold on. But you said that wasn't what you said. What you said is that you can't see a
That's
difference.
what
The
every-
Nazis, okay, but yes, I see a moral difference. The Nazis killed over 10 million people outside of the war conflict, just in terms of people that they killed, let alone the tens of millions of people who you might hold them responsible for. So yes, I do see a moral difference between the two. I'm not saying October 7th was horrifically immoral, but if you're going to say, do you see a moral difference, that would be like if somebody had murdered two people and you went, I see no difference between that and the Nazis. Okay, yes, they're both immoral, but there's enormous differences between the two. Now, to the other point of the idea of, can Israel eliminate Hamas, even if they were, which I don't think is feasibly possible, that they eliminated everybody who is a member of Hamas. I mean, in order to do this, you would have to look at, if the images of Gaza City aren't enough, you would have to look at images 5 times over of that, and this is going to result in just slaughtering innocent people, not to mention the excess mortality where hundreds of thousands of people are going to die as a result of this in the future. Even then, you would just be dealing with another Hamas-like group. Because if you don't understand what creates this problem to begin with, look, this is the problem. This happens all throughout history, all throughout the world. If you want, there's a reason why the Nazis only rose. First, it was after we imposed Versailles, but then, as you know, it was after the Great Depression, when there was hyperinflation, when things go terrible, that's when the worst, most violent extremist groups rise.
Dennis,
and that's what the future is going to be,
Can I
unfortunately.
respond just very briefly
Sure,
to that?
and then Dennis can go.
Something really staggering has happened in Gaza since October 7th, which is there have been protests against Hamas. For the first time there were protests actually recently in 2019, but they were quashed by Hamas in a very aggressive, violent way. But the people of Gaza, the innocent people of Gaza, yes, who you mentioned, are speaking out against Hamas because Hamas is stealing their food and their aid, and they are seeing, I mean, they've known all along the role Hamas plays in their oppression. But the fact that Hamas has lost support in Gaza since October 7th, while gaining support massively in the West Bank, right? I mean, which speaks to how different the Palestinian populations are in the different areas. I just don't buy it that Israel is creating more and more Hamases and Hamases and Hamases. I think that there's evidence that actually the opposite is happening, that the people of Gaza are seeing we have to get out of this cycle.
Go ahead, Dennis.
That's insane, by the way.
We'll get to, I'll come to you next.
I hate
Yeah.
to put it this way, but I mean it sincerely, so I will. You are on record now, because the internet has a permanent memory.
I'm aware.
Of saying that there's no comparison morally between Hamas and the Nazis.
No,
on the
you
record,
changed.
Dave.
Well,
You're
no,
on the
Yes, he's on the
well, for the
record.
record,
That is correct.
you changed.
We'll get
You
to
changed
that.
what I said a little bit,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
sure.
No.
Yeah.
Wait. So
No, I didn't say that.
Wait. All right, you don't. So you think morally they are similar? Yes or no?
You said I can't see anything different about them
Yes,
except
and I was
that the Nazis.
everyone knows
No,
I was
listen,
talking morally. Of course, Hamas does not control the same number of countries.
Mr. Prager, what's beautiful about the internet is what you just said. It is on record, so people can see what
That's
I said,
correct.
and then they
It
can
is
see
all
what
right.
you
That's
said.
demagogic.
That's right.
Go ahead, sir.
There is no moral difference between the Nazis and Hamas. Both want to exterminate Jews. That is what we're talking about, not whether or not the Hamas has taken over Czechoslovakia. That's an irrelevant point to what I made. There is no moral distinction. Hamas would like to butcher every Jew in Israel, maybe in the world, I don't know, but certainly in Israel. It's in their charter, and that's what they announced. They're proud of October 7th. They are proud of rape. They are proud of burning Jewish families, and the Nazis were proud, but the Nazis hid it, and Hamas boasts about it. That's the one difference.
Cenk, go ahead.
Again, that's the one difference. See,
Yes.
you make the point again. That's not the one difference. There's other differences also. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is Alice in Wonderland. If anybody watched this debate and they didn't know what was happening in the world, they would think, oh my God, I guess Hamas is this giant power and it's been abusing Israel this entire time. Poor little tiny Israel. And Hamas is this gigantic power crushing Israel. What are you guys talking about? Hamas has got pea shooters. They did terrible damage on October 7th. Now Israel's done 30 times worse to the civilians. They've massacred civilians after civilians after civilians. Israel is Goliath. It is not David. It is the Germans in terms of military power. It is not the Jews. The Palestinians are the equivalent of the Jews during the Holocaust. They have been put into ghettos, and they have said, you have no freedom. You will serve us and serve us only. And right now they're saying, we're going to have permanent occupation. And wait, so were the Jews not supposed to fight back against the Germans? Do the Palestinians, hold on, do the Palestinians not have a right to defend themselves? Does it only go one way, where Israel can crush? And how dare you lowly Palestinians fight back? How dare you? Now we'll kill 30 times more of you and we'll occupy you forever and ever and ever. And we're supposed to accept that? Are you guys nuts? They're never going to accept it. Never, ever. Batya, I love you, but if you think that the Palestinians are now more anti-Hamas and more pro-Israel, you have lost your mind. They despise Israel. And they will fight. And hold on, this is the most important point. They are going to fight Israel forever, not because they hate the Jews. Oh my God, they're Nazis. Oh, for no reason at all. They were just walking by and all these Jews came by and they hate them. No, they took their land and they still have it. They have them under their thumb. They can cut off the water, the power, the food, and they're starving them to death. And you think that, what, they just coincidentally hate the Jews and that's their driving ideology? No, they're fighting you because you're occupying them. This is the most obvious thing in the world. Why did the Armenians fight the Turks? Why did the Greeks fight the Turks? Why did everyone fight the Turks at the end of World War I and the end of the Ottoman Empire? Not because they hate the Turks, but because we were occupying them. And if the Greeks said we want to kill them all, which they did, that did not give us a right to go back into Greece, occupy Greece for 75 years and go, how dare you defend yourself? You hate Turks. We get to kill you forever.
Legitimate Palestinian self-defense would be, we no longer want to destroy Israel. Let's make